This is Apropos. EU leaders joined India's Republic Day parade as guests of honour earlier as Brussels and New Delhi concluded talks on a long-awaited free trade agreement. Officials had been working on the deal on and off for nearly 2 decades, but Donald Trump's trade tariffs last year prompted both sides to fast-track negotiations. Monty Francis has the details.
India celebrated its annual Republic Day on Monday with a show of military might, a flyover by the Indian Air Force, and a celebration of culture to mark the anniversary of the country's post-colonial constitution. Taking part in the festivities, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who rolled out the red carpet for his guests of honor, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and Antonio Costa, the President of the European Council. The fanfare comes ahead of Tuesday's summit at which India and the EU are expected to announce a landmark free trade deal and security partnership. India is a country of 1.4 billion people on track to become the world's 4th largest economy this year. Experts say the pact would be a major win for Brussels and New Delhi, as both seek to open up new markets to counter U.S. tariffs and Chinese export controls. The details have not yet been announced, but it's expected that India will slash tariffs on European cars to 40%, down from 110%, the biggest opening yet for European automakers. New Delhi is also expected to open its market further to European wine. The trade deal is also expected to expand India's market in Europe for electronics, textiles, and chemicals. For its part, India continues to depend on Russian oil, but that has decreased under tariff threats from the U.S., and the EU pact is expected to push India further from dependence on Moscow.
Well, for more, we're joined now by Christophe Jaffrelot, author, political scientist and research director at the French National Centre for Scientific Research. Thanks so much, Christophe, for being with us on the programme. Both sides describing this moment as historic. It's taken nearly 2 decades to get here. Just why has it taken so long? What have been the main sticking points, do you believe?
Well, there were many bones of contention. Yes, these negotiations started in 2007. Both sides decided to stop in 2013, and they have restarted these negotiations only 3-4 years ago when they decided to, go ahead and complete it. Clearly, Donald Trump has accelerated these negotiations, but we don't know yet whether this is really historical. We don't know yet how deep this deal will be. There are rumors saying that, well, agriculture will not be part of it. That will be one of the limitations. And at the end of the day, the Indian partner of the EU represents only 2% of the European trade. So before it becomes a turning point in the relations between both countries, it will take time.
So the detail of the actual deal, as you say, we don't know it yet. What do you think the security partnership is likely to entail? There are reports that India is going to be taking part in European defence initiatives.
Yeah, that's a very interesting addition to the agenda. It was not there initially. And in the last few days, it was announced. I would say as a political signal. It was a way to tell Donald Trump and to tell the world, look, the EU is also a geopolitical animal, and now we are going to speak about security, which is new for the EU. The EU was certainly not interested in security before. Now, the EU has a Indo-Pacific policy, a Indo-Pacific agenda at least, and it is security-oriented. It is more security-oriented than before. So we will see what is in this agreement. But intelligence sharing in the framework of Primario 3, that is in the pipeline, and fusion centers for sharing intelligence again, maybe something on the maritime security, That is definitely something we can expect, and cybersecurity at large. So the EU will probably not be in a position to deploy hard power the way a nation state would do, but they can coordinate nation states' deployments and do as much as they can on the front I was mentioning, intelligence, cybersecurity, and so on and so forth.
And what kind of wider impact do you think this deal might eventually have? Some are saying that converging EU and Indian positions could have a major influence, not just on trade between the EU and India, but on reshaping international institutions and even rules-based trading systems.
Well, this is where I'm very skeptical. And I'm very skeptical for many reasons, but there are two reasons especially I would like to mention. One is the EU is still very uncomfortable with the India-Russia relations. Moscow and New Delhi are very close diplomatically. India has never objected to the invasion of Ukraine, has not voted against Russia in the UN so far as the Ukraine war is concerned. And militarily, Russia remains a very important arms supplier of India. Not so much quantitatively. Yeah, Russia is still number one, but you see the US, Israel, France catching up, but qualitatively. And during the Republic Day parade that took place today, for instance, we saw S-400, BrahMos, ballistic missiles that have been developed by India and Russia. That makes the Europeans uncomfortable. And the fact that India continues to import a lot of Russian oil does not help. Plus, another bone of contention that makes this rapprochement more problematic, human rights. India is becoming an illiberal democracy. The European Union keeps saying this is the largest democracy in the world. It is not. It is not anymore. And the European Parliament has passed resolutions on these issues, human rights, rule of law, minorities' rights. And that may arise again when the EU Parliament will have to ratify the deals which will be signed tomorrow. These questions of human rights may well come back. So how deep this rapprochement will be? Will it be so deep that you can expect a kind of transformation or at least influence on the multilateral system? I repeat, I'm a bit skeptical.
Yeah, because we've seen Donald Trump try to apply that same pressure on India when it comes to purchasing oil from Moscow. Do you think there will have been an awful lot of pressure behind the scenes leading up to this deal, particularly in the past year, on issues like Moscow and also on the issue of human rights? And do you think that India is going to start having a different attitude now when it comes to the EU more generally?
Well, behind doors, we don't know. But what we know is that the Europeans are not putting pressure on India as much as the US are doing, which is really paradoxical. The EU, the Europeans are facing Russia, but they are not as determined to dissuade India from importing oil from Russia as the US are, which is really, I repeat, paradoxical. Even Chancellor Merz, when he was in India earlier this month, said he's not going to lobby to put pressure on India on that front. Interestingly, the person who spoke about this last week, in fact, when he was visiting in New Delhi, was the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Poland. And that was very revealing of the tensions that is palpable on this question of the India-Russia relations. Because this minister said, well, we are concerned and we would like you to distance yourself from Russia. And the response was, well, mind your business. We are not going to make any change so far as natural interest is concerned. So it's not so easy to speak about these issues with the Indian government. And behind the doors, maybe things are being said. But I repeat, the US are doing more, publicly at least, when this India-Russia relation is concerned.
Christophe, we'll have to leave it there for now. Thanks so much for being with us on the programme, though. That's Christophe Jaffrelot, author, political scientist and research director at the French National Centre for Scientific Research.